they didn't want a black guy to be the one that created rock and roll because the white kids liked it. And they didn't want the white girl screaming over no black boy. And by me being a black guy and a good-looking black guy, and you know I'm not conceited.
No.
I've never been that way.
No.
You know I don't believe in stuff like that.
I hope don't nobody mistake this.
I hope don't. I'm not conceited. I'm convinced.
Everybody, how you doing today? Here I am at Oakwood Memorial Garden Cemetery in Huntsville, Alabama, and I raised the mohawk in tribute to the man that kind of made the pompadour very, very famous, Little Richard. And the cemetery is very, very small, and I pointed at those crosses because I knew that was the landmark to look for Little Richard. And I'm going to do this video a little bit different than I normally do. I'm going to give you some of the, a bit about his life story, but I don't think I have to go into too much detail about his life story because I think all of us know a little bit. It's really windy, so I hope you can hear me okay. I think all of us know a little bit about Little Richard. He's been a constant in all of our lives for people of all ages. He's just the man. I was talking with my friend last night. We went out to dinner here in Huntsville, and we were talking about Little Richard. He had just come out to Little Richard's grave. His name's Randy. He has a channel, Big Bake on the Move. I'm going to put a link to his channel below. He's just starting out. He's a great guy and really, really knowledgeable. We were having a discussion about Little Richard. And I was just saying, like, when I was a kid, I thought of Little Richard as an older artist, like old. Because when you're a kid, you think everybody over 25 is old. And sadly. And when Cocktail came out, that's when I knew Little Richard a bit because my parents played 50s music and 60s music and stuff around the house. So I knew Little Richard. And he was always on talk shows and cameos in movies. 26 albums, 26 movies. But he was always... I remember when Cocktail came out, Tutti Frutti's on the soundtrack. And I love that movie and I love that soundtrack. So I listened to it over and over again. So I listened to Tutti Frutti all the time. But I knew that Little Richard was just like this older artist. And that's all I kind of knew. That he was very flamboyant and outrageous and snarky.
The band!
And extremely talented. He influenced Elvis, the Beatles, you name it. He's a pioneer in the music industry. And then I was talking to another friend about it. He mentioned Jerry Lee Lewis to me, and I said, I gotta look up Jerry Lee Lewis, where he's buried. And he looked at me and goes, Jerry Lee Lewis is still alive. And I said, oh, what? He is? And he said, well, yeah. I said, oh. And I looked up, and I didn't look it up. I was like, oh, okay. And Little Rich is one of those artists where you can't believe that he, at 87 years old, May of 2020 is when he passed away. God bless the man. He made it. He had a hard living life, and he made it to 87. So when I was young, when you were young, Little Richard was older, and he's still going. He always looked the same too. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of work done. Why not? But Little Richard is just a constant in our lives. Isn't he? That's what I think of him as. And I also think of him as he would be on. I think like he would be on like the Tonight Show all the time and Arsenio Hall. I remember as a kid watching with you, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? Because he was very opinionated. He could get angry. You didn't know if it was an act, though. You never knew what was going on with Little Richard, if he was being serious or not. He had a twinkle in his eye, and it was always like, is he just putting people on? Is he being a bitch because he is one, or is he just, like, or bitchy, you know what I mean? Or is he really like that? You can't deny the man's musical talent, though. He's incredible. I was listening to his greatest hits on the way over here. The man was amazing. And he's buried right here. And so you see all around me, there's those 3 crosses. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just kind of talking, mumbling word salad about Little Richard because I have so many opinions of him, or so many thoughts about him. And I can't believe... if you had told me Little Richard had died 20 years ago, I kind of, because he kind of leaves track of certain celebrities, I would have kind of been like, oh yeah, like that tracks. But the man made it to 87. Take that, Keith Richards, and who's still alive, and we hope lives for a long time. And I wish Little Richard was still here, but he did die. So we're going on a year and a half ago, roughly, and yeah, he's Little Richard. Lots of newly buried people here, new plots, and we're gonna look for Little Richard right now. He's somewhere right around here. I have the exact marking on Find a Grave. I didn't bother looking. I knew it was a small cemetery, so I like kind of looking around, see what I can find. And I think that's it over there. I know it's a flat grave, and I know he's buried near the back. And you're gonna be shocked. You're gonna be shocked when you see his grave, I think, but I'm going to talk about that too. And that's not him. Here he is right here. And it reads, our beloved brother and endearing loved one, Richard Wayne Penniman, Little Richard, December 5th, 1932 to May 9th, 2020. Deeply loved by family, friends, and fans. He was discovered around the age of 15. He was singing at a auditorium, and I believe a nun said, hey, you should open the show, and that kind of set him off on a showbiz career. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about his life. Now there's some controversies. I mean, he did have at the time, sexuality was not something you really talked about. He did talk about it, his sexuality, quite a bit, and maybe that held him back from becoming as famous. Well, he was famous, but as ultra famous as his contemporaries. Nowadays, it doesn't matter if an artist is gay or straight. It should never have mattered, and nowadays it really doesn't matter. But in those days, Little Richard was a pioneer in many, many ways, and he struggled with drugs. I know he had a huge cocaine addiction, but he talked openly about it. That's why I'm talking openly about it. I usually don't like to talk about sort of things about people who are coming to visit them at their final resting spot. But he was very open about that. He called himself Little Cocaine. Let's talk about Little Richard. Born into a family of 12 children, Penniman learned gospel music in Pentecostal churches of the Deep South. As a teenager, he left home to perform rhythm and blues in medicine shows and nightclubs, where he took the name Little Richard, achieving notoriety for high-energy on-stage antics. His first recordings in the early 1950s, produced in the soothing jump blues style of Roy Brown, showed none of the soaring vocal reach that would mark his later singing. His big breakthrough came in September 1955 at a recording session at J&M Studio in New Orleans, Louisiana, where Little Richard, backed by a solid rhythm and blues band, sang Tutti Frutti with his unforgettable exhortation, a wop babadoo bop a lot bam boom. In the year and a half that followed, he released a string of songs on specialty records that sold well among both black and white audiences. Rip It Up, Long Tall Sally, Ready Teddy, Good Golly Miss Molly, and Send Me Some Lovin', among others. He was blessed with a phenomenal voice able to generate croons, wails, and screams unprecedented in popular music. Little Richard scored hits that combined childishly amusing lyrics with sexually suggestive undertones. As the success grew, Little Richard appeared in some of the earliest rock and roll movies, Don't Knock the Rock and The Girl Can't Help It, and Mr. Rock and Roll in 1957. In the latter, he stands at the piano, belting out songs with a dark intensity that in the bland Eisenhower years seemed excessive, an impression amplified by his bizarre 6-inch pompadour, eyeliner, and the pancake makeup. At the very peak of his fame, however, he concluded that rock and roll was a devil's work. He abandoned the music business, enrolled in Bible college, and became a traveling evangelical preacher. When the Beatles skyrocketed onto the music scene in 1964, they sang several of his classic songs and openly acknowledged their debt to this great forebearer. This renewed attention inspired Little Richard to return to the stage in the recording studio for another shot at stardom. Although a new song, Bamalama Bamaloo, invoked the fun and vitality of his heyday, record-buying youngsters were not impressed. A major recording contract in the early 1970s produced 3 albums, The Real Thing, King of Rock and Roll, and Second Coming, collections that show Little Richard in fine voice but somewhat out of his element in the hard rock styles of the period. Little Richard continued to appear at concerts and festivals until 2013, when he announced his retirement. In his increasingly rare TV appearances, his madcap mannerisms, so threatening to parents in the 50s, had come to seem amusingly safe. Having weathered a change marked by extraordinary changes in direction, Little Richard survived not only as a self-proclaimed architect of rock and roll, but also as a living treasure of 20th century American pop culture. Now, as I was saying, I knew to look for these 3 crosses, and I'm not quite sure if they're dedicated to having to do with Little Richard or not. July 27, 2010. These 3 crosses are graciously underwritten by Christopher and Denise Leggett. They're very, very impressive to see. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful cemeteries I've been to. It's tiny, it's small, with that little lake or pond in the background, and pretty much what you see here is the whole cemetery. So I said that you're going to be shocked when you see his grave, and that's because, as you see right there, it's somewhat modest and unassuming, right? There it is. And it's a raised headstone. Simple. The name, the date, a couple of phrases. That's it. But so a lot of times when I do graves, which I do a lot of on my channel, people will write, like whatever artist I've done that video, they'll say, they deserve a much bigger memorial than that. That's ridiculous how small their plaque is or their headstone is, or sometimes when they're unmarked even. And I was thinking about that because what I think, or what I believe to be true, is, first of all, you never know how much money the artist really has when they pass away. A lot of artists don't have a lot of money. It's sad, but some of them, I don't know, I'm not certain about Little Richard, about what his net worth was when he passed away. They don't have, they may not have their funeral arrangements, their plot and headstone all picked out and all that. Definitely not their headstone, but their plot even. So you never know how much money. Then also, you got to remember the family is paying for it. So you never know how much money the family has. And the estate gets tied up maybe for a long time. You never know. And I'm not saying this about Little Richard's family. I have no clue. But you never know if they really want to spend the money on something like that. It's up to them. But mostly what I believe is Little Richard was very religious. I mean, he was a minister as well. So death, you're going before God in that sense for what his religion would believe, and humbleness is something you're not supposed to be vain, right? This is all just Sunday school teachings coming back to me. I'm thinking about. I'm not a very religious person, but you're supposed to be humble before God. So lots of times you may be the less ostentatious, the headstone and the grave, to appear before God as a humble servant. I think maybe that's part of the reason. That could be the reason, but there's many, many different reasons why. Excuse me. I'm not cutting any of this out. I'm just talking. There could be Normally I would cut that out. There's many reasons why an artist may not have the type of headstone you want. And lots of times when there's unmarked graves, I've heard that Barbara Orbison, Roy Orbison's wife, has left him in an unmarked grave because she can't bear the thought of looking at a headstone with his name on it. That could be the case with a few artists. I mean, Frank Zappa, who's married right near Roy Orbison. So lots of times, yeah. I mean, I've done some hip-hop rap superstar graves who died tragically young, and they have very unassuming plots and headstones. And people think, oh, they should have why don't they have a giant mausoleum like Juice WRLD does or something like that? Well, lots of times maybe they're just starting out. They don't have as much money as you think, especially nowadays. Musicians aren't making as much money as we think they are. You know, it's without touring. And Little Richard, speaking of touring, that man played hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many shows he played, but he was a dynamite in concert, and he toured endlessly all over the world. The man was beloved. So that's my theory about headstones and graves. You never know. So you can't just say, well, it's not right. You don't know the reason why. I don't know the reason why. But it's a nice area. It's a simple plaque. Let's take a look one more time at it. Yeah, as you see, it looks like this has been here for quite a while. I don't think this would have been here from the funeral. Unless it's stuck into the ground, which it might be. But these keep falling over, and I'm trying to get them to stay up. There it is. Came a long way out of my way just for Little Richard, just to see his grave, because I really did think he was an incredible musician. I think you do too. Yeah, like I said, Elvis, the Beatles, they all credited Little Richard as a huge inspiration. Well, like Little Richard, I've been on the road for quite a long time, so I maybe just like I said, I was doing this video a little differently, just kind of talking about my memories of Little Richard and my thoughts. Add yours below in the comments. I read everything. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to it. Follow my Instagram. But yeah, I do read every comment. So just maybe what Little Richard meant to you and when you first discovered his music. Like I said, I kind of have this memories somewhat scattered of being very little Richard, and thinking about remembering him from when I was a kid with my parents playing his music, but his Cocktail with Tom Cruise, as young Brian Flanagan, where I really discovered Little Richard, and I listened to that soundtrack over and over again. It's so windy. I hope you can hear me during all this, and God bless Little Richard. I hope he made it, and thanks to all of you watching. Peace out. And once again, as I'm leaving the cemetery, taking a look, and I always like to read the other graves, and young gentleman here who just made it to the age of 16, right here to the right. 16 years old, passed away. Nothing breaks my heart more than that. Nothing. And I think you too. And it looks like the flowers have fallen out of his. Yeah, the flowers match. They fell out of his vase here. I'm gonna put them back in, and hopefully they can stay in. Very difficult to get them to stay in. I see how it goes. Oh no, it doesn't. They just kind of sit in. Okay, so this one's got to be bent more. Oh, gosh. Okay. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I took a picture, and I'm going to look up what happened to this young man. As you can find out, was 16 years old, and just out of respect for the family, I'm just gonna. A few times I've shown other like non-famous people when I'm passing by, but I just want to be discreet with this young man. Gosh, 16, and what year did he pass? 2016. Richard made it to 87. This young man made it to 16 only. Not to take away from little Richard. I'm not saying that. It's just life isn't fair. Rest in peace, young man. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching. And I'm gonna find out what happened to this young man.